It's a hard thing to have to do, but they did the right thing.
Breaking news right now on the WHAS11 night team. In the past hour, Breonna Taylor's mother emotional, seeing the justice she's been looking for 4 years in her daughter's killing by Metro Police. The guilty verdict tonight for former LMPD Detective Brett Hankison. He becomes the first Metro officer involved in that deadly raid to head to prison. We have 4 WHAS11 journalists covering the late verdict from the jury. Right now, live on the WHAS11 night team. And right now tonight, he's guilty and will be heading to prison. The verdict from a federal jury coming at 9:30 tonight. Hello, everybody. It is continuing breaking news coverage from WHAS 11. I'm Doug Prophet. And moments ago, this was the scene outside the federal courthouse. In the past hour, supporters of Breonna Taylor chanting and celebrating the verdict in the streets outside the federal courthouse at 6th and Broadway. He becomes the first Metro police officer involved in the Breonna Taylor raid 4 years ago to be held accountable by a jury, and now prison time. The guilty verdict, a shock to many, since this jury had become deadlocked, twice telling the judge they were having trouble. Isaiah Kim Martinez and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton are live right now. They covered every day of this 3-week trial. And Isaiah, Breonna Taylor's mother speaking less than an hour ago. And the way this day played out, this verdict is a true surprise.
Doug, I think you can argue for everybody who was in that courtroom on both sides. You have Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, who let out a very audible gasp in that courtroom when the verdict was read, the words guilty, specifically of violating her daughter's civil rights, back when Brett Hankison in 2020 fired 10 shots into the side of Breonna Taylor's apartment. Of course, Brett Hankison, like Doug mentioned, is facing a maximum sentence of life in prison. I did catch up with him and his attorney moments after that conviction just outside the courthouse. Here's some of that video. Mr. Hankison, do you have any comment to this?
I don't have any comment.
Are you surprised by the verdict?
Talk to you.
Did it surprise you at all? And you hear Jack Bird, Brett Hankison's lead attorney there, saying no comment. Now, again, moments after that conviction, Breonna Taylor's mother, Tamika Palmer, along with other family, stood on the steps of the federal court building and spoke to reporters. Of course, I spoke with her moments into that, asking her how she felt about all this. Here were some of her answers to us tonight.
Grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God. It took a lot of patience. It took a lot of time. 1,694 days.
1,694.
It took. It was long. It was hard. It was. I don't even know if I got some words, but thank God. Thank God that He covered 12 jurors who chose to do the right thing, who took their time.
Thank you, God.
To understand what was really going on and that Breonna deserved justice. So I'm grateful to everybody involved. We here. I was worried. People lose focus and people get, we move on so quickly from everything. So I think we all had that worry at some point or another. I said it to you the other morning, like, I just chose to give it to God. I was carrying it all and I was getting weaker by the moment, but I had to figure out another way. I had to do something different.
Tamika Palmer there reacting, answering my question when I asked if she was worried how it's been so long. It's been over 4 years. I do want to mention, though, again, Brett Hankison found guilty of violating Breonna Taylor's civil rights the night of that March 2020 raid, but he also, Doug, was found not guilty for the second charge in all this, and that was for violating the civil rights of the 3 neighbors in that adjacent apartment to Breonna Taylor's. His bullets went through Taylor's sliding glass door and into their apartment. He was found not guilty for that. So this is a split verdict, Doug. So it is very much, like you said, a stunning result in many ways, you could argue. Of course, Brett Hankison's family and friends, this will be something that I'm getting texts already, they're actually coming to terms with this right now. I do want to mention that, again, he faces a maximum sentence of life in prison, but that is at the judge's discretion. The sentencing date, that is March 12th of next year at 10 a.m.
Let's pick up on that sentencing real quick. Of course, obviously, as we saw in that exclusive video, Brett Hankison is at least a free man tonight, leaving the courthouse until his sentencing, as you said in March, Isaiah. We want to make it clear the judge has the full sentencing power in this. Many legal experts I've talked to tonight said they are doubtful that he would get life in prison because he doesn't have a prior criminal record on this one count. So talk about that sentencing and what we could expect from in March.
Doug, you're right. It's truly at the judge's discretion. We've never seen something quite like this here in Louisville, Kentucky. I can tell you, he is out on bond like he's been throughout this entire case. The judge mentioned the fact that he has showed up to every single court date. There hasn't been any issues. So whether that good behavior as a criminal defendant weighs into her decision, that could be something that we'll have to look into, Doug.
So we talked about why this is such a shock. Let's go through the timeline right now, Isaiah, because it was a roller coaster. And we've put it on the screen for you to go through the exact timing of how this day played out.
Yeah, Doug, it was just before 1 p.m., 1 this afternoon, that the judge got a note from the jury saying, essentially, we cannot come to a verdict. I think the exact words, I actually have it up here, the jury essentially saying they're deadlocked. They can't come to a unanimous agreement, a unanimous decision. Then, fast forward about 6 hours, the jury then says they disagree on one count. So what does that mean? Then they continue to deliberate. An hour later, the jury returns that partial verdict, initially finding Brett Hankison not guilty of the charge involving the neighbors. And then a couple hours later, that shocking moment, the judge reading the verdict, guilty, convicted on the charge directly relating to Breonna Taylor, Doug.
Okay, Isaiah, thank you. We're going to continue our coverage here on the Night Team. Just an hour ago, I talked with Louisville attorney Nick Mudd of the Mudd Legal Group. He's been following the case closely for WHAS11 News and has actually been in front of this federal judge. Mudd says many factors that developed in this third trial for Hankison make this verdict a true shocker. In the history of this case, how big is this?
Oh, I think it's huge, and I think it's something that most police officers I talked to did not think he was going to get convicted at all. Most of the attorneys did not either, to be honest with you. So I think that, given the fact he walked on the state case and they hung last time in the makeup, it is extremely surprising he got convicted.
Especially after not being convicted twice before in the mistrial last time.
Exactly. I mean, that's the history leading up to this would have led one to believe that the jury was going to find him not guilty.
Now, once again, this exclusive video only on WHAS11 News and here on the Night Team. Brett Hankison leaving the federal courthouse moments ago. The jury came back earlier tonight, cleared him on the civil rights charge involving her neighbors, but they were deadlocked on the Breonna Taylor charge. The federal judge then sent them back to deliberate on that one count after finding him not guilty on the other. Nick Mudd told me tonight that's extremely rare. He, in fact, says it happens once in about every 5 years. He has seen it happen that way. Next up, other former LMPD officers are charged in Breonna Taylor's death. This year, a superseding indictment against Joshua Janes and Kyle Meany was filed accusing them of depriving Taylor of her rights. Janes is facing 2 additional charges of conspiracy and falsification of records in a federal investigation. Meany's also charged with providing a false statement to federal investigators. Prosecutors say Janes falsified that original warrant that led officers to Taylor's South End apartment and that Meany approved it, knowing it contained false information. They've both pleaded not guilty to the charges. Trial dates are pending. And former LMPD Detective Kelly Goodlett pleading guilty to a federal conspiracy charge back in 2022. In the plea agreement, she says she conspired with Joshua Janes to create that falsified search warrant for Taylor's apartment and then worked together to cover it up, misleading federal investigators. She faces a maximum sentence of 5 years in federal prison, along with a $250,000 fine and 3 years of supervision after her release.